Let's talk about sit. Sit is one of the behaviors that every dog knows when I go into their home. And sit is something that is a very simple behavior that most people teach their dog. Sometimes the dog just sits on their own, and other times you're doing a lot of training. But for me, sit is one of those behaviors that your dog is born knowing how to do. We're not actually teaching the dog how to sit, we're teaching them the language that we speak. And so what I like to do, which is something that is very, very classic to my style of training, is show the dog with treats that they can sit in all these different places with all these different distractions with no commands. So we take a behavior that they already know is putting their bum on the ground, and we put a word to it which is sit, but you can call it whatever you want. And we show them at the park with company, at the front door, at the coffee shop, that they can sit, they can put their bum on the ground, and that it's safe, and that they can do it all by themselves. And so then our command sit becomes a secondary behavior or a secondary thing to help support them in those times that they feel like that they can't. When we teach our dog offering behaviors, we're teaching them manners, we're teaching them that they can offer us something in return for something else without being told. You'll see in my training videos over at dogtraining360.com that offering behaviors is the staple and the foundation of all of my training. So let's get into sit. If you want to teach your dog to sit, you're going to use a treat, and we're using treats to teach, not to train, and we're using treats to show the dog that they can do the behavior. So the first thing that you do is you put the treat at the dog's nose, and you bring the treat from the nose up towards you and up towards the sky. You keep the treat at the dog's nose, so when the bum goes down, you can immediately give the dog the treat. Then, once they're doing that, they see the treat and their bum goes on the ground, you start adding your commands in. And the command that every classic trainer uses is sit, but again, you can use whatever you want. When I pull out the treat and the dog sits on its own, I praise, good sit, that's a nice sit. If I ask for the sit, so let's say I'm working at the front door and I turn and ask my dog to sit and they sit, I'm going to give them a treat. If they offer the sit, there's no treat involved. So we're teaching the word to the behavior by pairing those together. So ask for the command, if they sit, a treat happens. If they just work for the treat, then the praise happens. So that gets your dog in tune to start listening for those commands when you're asking them to do it. But we still want to reward and acknowledge the behavior that's offered. So make sure you praise the command, good sit. The next thing that you're going to do is you've done this, you've asked for it, you were using treats, we're at the coffee shop, we're at a shopping center, we're at home with company, we're answering the door to get our Amazon package, whatever that is. Our dog, every time we ask for a sit, they sit, and then the reward is presented to them. The next thing that we're going to do is start applying a little bit of pressure. When I talk about pressure and I talk about teaching at this point, there's no corrective collars, there's nothing, there's no harness, it's just their regular flat buckle collar that has their tags on it and their leash. So I'm going to ask for the sit. If the dog doesn't sit, then I apply pressure straight up on the leash. I don't want the dog choking, I don't want the dog swallowing, I don't want their feet off the ground, I don't want their body stretched up. I want pressure enough that the dog says, oh, I feel something there, and then when they put their bum on the ground, the pressure goes away. So this is a great example of what correction is and how to correct for a sit if your dog does not sit. So I'll ask for the sit. If the dog sits with no correction, they get the treat. If they don't sit and I need to apply pressure, there's no treat involved after. The reward is the release of pressure. So that's how you start getting that perfect sit in any location. All kinds of distractions is you start with food where they're offering it, you teach them the word, and then you start applying pressure, and then you can phase away from food. So then you're not taking treats everywhere you go, and you're not having to worry about my dog not sitting because they know I don't have food on me. When I ask for a sit, I want my dog to sit. I'm going to praise, I'm going to acknowledge, and if they don't, I'm going to apply pressure and release. So let's get into getting sits, and I hope that that becomes perfect.